Welcome to the Metal Voice. Today on the show we will be reviewing 2 new thrash releases. With me today, Vitek from India, the chief and owner of Metal Wani. What's going on, Vitek?
Super stoked.
Well, here it is, okay? We have 2 thrashing releases. We have Destruction, Under Attack, and we have Death Angels, The Evil Divide, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, I've only listened to about 5 tracks off The Evil Divide. I'm gonna lean on you, ask you some questions on what this album kind of sounds like, what's it about, and your feelings towards it, okay? These guys, just a brief little history, these guys started off in the late 80s. The thrash movement, let's say they were the second wave of thrash on the West Coast, and they came up with their own technical thrash. The first album that they released was called Ultraviolence, and they had a hit which was called Voracious Souls, which to this day is still one of my favorite tracks. I followed them since then, but they kind of like faded, sagged, and the last 3 albums that they released were hard-hitting. Now we have The Evil Divide. Vitek, give me your first impression. Is this similar or a continuation from the last 3 albums?
When they made the first album, Relentless Retribution, in 2010, there was a concept attached to it. And then they released the last album, which came out in 2013, I believe, The Dream Calls for Blood. So that was the so-called, the second phase, or the continuation, or the sequel, to be precise, of the first one. And after that came The Evil Divide, which is going to release, in a couple of days. Now, this one is not the trilogy. Most of them who have heard the album to some extent think this is the third part of the story, but it's not. So if you talk about from the concept point of view, this is Death Angel trying to come out of the last 2 ones and try to explore even the farthest side, which they haven't done in the past. That's from the conceptual side. But musically, no doubt whatsoever, this one is robust, near perfect harbinger of thrash. I mean, and you got to give it to Aguilar, you got to give it to Sisson, as well as Carroll's capacity to keep up with Rob Cavestan. His amazing shredding, his tireless and brilliant shredding, and he has nailed it. The moment fans listen to this, the moment you listen to those riffs, I mean, let me tell you something, this you would definitely, will be able to relate to. There are at least 20 notes dropped per second on almost every song. I can give you an example. The Moth, Father of Lies, Cause for Alarm. They're all filled with it. And even after 3 decades, Rob Cavestani, and us, Mark, they are the backbone. Just think of it. 30 years of writing thrash metal, and still they sound really good. They're not trying to redesign the wheel, but what they're doing is just making it better and better and better.
Let me ask you this. Mark, in the early days, the first 2-3 albums, he had a clean singing style. And over the years, more of a angry, harsher vocals. Throughout this album, is it completely harsh, or does he mix it up vocally?
Vocally, it's Mark trying to do what he did best in the last 2 albums. I mean, I don't expect him to go back what he did 20 years, 25 years ago. So what he's trying to do here is pushing himself way too hard in terms of expressing the lyrical side of this album as well. So you'll find some slight bit of grunts somewhere in the middle of few songs. You'll also find him going screaming all over. So thrash vocals, they're pretty much diverse. I mean, if you look at it, some shout, whereas some scream. It depends on how one's capacity is, and also the way you emphasize on the words. Let's take an example of Bobby Blitz, how he does it. He's a master of it. And now Mark does the same. I can give you a simple example of a track. The first one, The Moth, is a big difference the way he expels the words. And even in the song like Father of Lies, there's a big difference. And you would clearly hear him trying to push way too much to make sure not only the words are understood, but also he conveys the emotional side of his voice, which is very important when you're talking about a concept album.
Killing Season, Relentless Retribution, The Dream Calls for Blood, sorry about that.
The Dream Calls for Blood.
These 3 albums, if no one's ever heard them, they should definitely pick them up. This is like, this band is a technical thrash band. Do you think this album is better than those last 3 albums?
In terms of the songwriting, I think these guys are at their best right now with The Evil Divide. I'm not trying to emphasize the fact that the last 2 albums were not good. They were right up there. But this one is a notch above the last one, The Dream Calls for Blood.
What would you rate it out of 10, quickly?
If I would have to say, I would easily give it around 9 or 9.5, not just from the songwriting part of view, but also from the lyrical approach and also the conceptual side. And have a look at that cover art, Jimmy. There's a lot of meaning behind it.
You know what? From the tracks that I've heard and I've lived with for about a week now, I gotta say, this album, I'm very, very excited to hearing the whole thing. And I agree with you. I think it's heading in that direction, just from what I've heard. There you go, Death Angel, The Evil Divide. Now let's go over to Europe, Germany. The Teutonic Terror Thrashers, the one, the only Destruction. I'm gonna give you, I heard this album. Okay, this one I've heard completely, I've been living with it for a while. I gotta say, have never been the biggest Destruction fan. I always kind of like preferred Creator over Destruction. It's just a personal taste. Nothing against Destruction. But with this album, I find it angry, a lot of speed, thrashy, of course. I mean, barking out vocals. I love the themes on the, it's all about, the fall of mankind or the brainwashing or the takeover of mankind. I love the lyrical concepts and themes on this album. And I think it's very catchy and melodic at the same time, which for someone like me who's not a big Destruction fan, I could enjoy it. And I really enjoyed this album. What did you think about it?
Now, there's a saying, like, when the going gets tough, the tough gets thrashing. But that seems to be the key to success, and let me say the sheer awesomeness that many old thrash metal bands have stuck to. And Destruction is not excluded in that. I mean, we say that some bands age, like a fine wine, like sushi. But it's a fact of life that we've seen Destruction grow over the period of time. Now, these guys have been doing it since 80s. And if you look at the number of albums they have churned out over the years, especially from 2000s and even 2010 onwards, there are many they have released. And some may feel that they are average. Because I hear a lot of comments from people, especially the music reviewers, who say, they write pretty average albums, but they don't think and try to understand what Destruction actually planned to do. Now with this album, if you look at, there's a gap of 3 big long years from Spiritual Genocide to the new one. Now the difference here is these guys have spent a lot of time, they've got a lot of time to write. I've spoken to Schmier 2 times in this songwriting cycle, and every time he said they don't want to rush. They want to make sure that they write something which is right up there. They're called Teutonic metal, thrash metal giants, not just for the name, but they have done it. They have proved it time and time again. And this album, it's right up there, my friend. It's right up there. You can't compare it with the previous album because it's way beyond that. It's way beyond that.
And I agree with you. For someone who's not a Destruction fan, after listening to this album, I feel like I've become a Destruction fan. Because the quality of the songs and the melody, which is so important. I mean, it's great to thrash and to speed and to be angry and to scream and bark. But if you don't have melody, and melody's not a bad word. Melody's a good word. That's what makes us remember the tunes and make one song different from the other, right? So anyways, what would you rate this album out of 10?
I would give it around 9. The reason being, especially as a drummer myself, it's Wawa. Now he is a progressive metal drummer. Not many people know that. He has a project called Inducti, which is very, very perfect, heartbringer of progressive metal. Now the influences he has brought onto this album is something Schmier knows and appreciates. And fans who are, let's say, drummers, they will know the very first moment when the album, when they spin the album, they'll get to know how much influence he has brought in. He hasn't tried to change Destruction's sound, but he has made it much better with his drums. With no disrespect to their previous drummers, Wawa is right up there, man. He is the best Destruction drummer I have seen, heard from last 20 odd years.
I love the song Elegant Pigs, Under Attack, Generation, Nevermore, Dethroned, and Getting Used to the Evil. I love that, Getting Used to the Evil. Well, I would put this album at 8.5 out of 10. I've listened to it a week or two, and maybe it'll go higher from there. But bottom line is, the fans should go out and pick up the new Destruction album, and they should go pick up the new Death Angel album as well. Vitek, Metal Wani, Editor-in-Chief, the one, the only, the master in India. Thank you for being on the show once again.
Cheers, Jimmy.
And we'll talk soon.